Okay, so let's move on to another example. Let's come down here. Let's put another star. Let's put another EX, and let's put another fraction of. Let's do 12/48. Okay, so 12/48. Well, 12/48 definitely can be simplified. And the reason why I know it can be simplified is really for a couple of reasons. One, I know that both are even. 12 and 48 are even numbers, so 2 is going to go into that. But I don't know about you guys, but to me, if you're on level and you're where you need to be right now in your math skills, it's kind of like this. Well, 12/48s, you ought to be thinking about your multiples of 12 because 12 can go into both. But I want to show you something with 12/48s because this is something kind of interesting. So let's just say you were like, oh, okay, I know I've got to go and divide. So I'm going to put my division symbol there. And then I'm going to pick a number that can go into both. So, what can go into both? Well, let's just say you're a kid, and I'll be real honest with you. This is how I did it when I was your age. And what I did was not wrong. It just took me a little bit more time to get it. So I'm going to kind of refer back up here to our first problem. This was the long way to do it. Okay, the shorter way to do it is to not break it apart and go factor. Because I'm going to be real honest with you. If you do that with every single one, that's going to get really, really old. What you can do instead of factor is you take your time and you just think, well, what can go into both? Well, let's just say I knew some facts of 12 and 48, and I said, well, I think 6 can go into both. Which, if you know your facts, you know that that's true. 6 can go into both. So I'm going to just go do some division skills now. 12 divided by 6 is going to be 2. By the way, you should be writing everything that I'm putting on this page. And then 48 divided by 6 is going to be 8. Now, here's the problem, though. This is what I ran into when I was your age. So I would do this problem, and I'd get this answer, and I'd sit there and I'd look at my work, and I'd go, oh, okay, sweet, I got it. It's going to be 2/8. And then my teacher would come by and she'd go, well, you know what? That's still wrong. And I was like, what are you talking about? I just did my work here. What's up with this? Well, here's the thing. When you're simplifying, your goal is to find the simplest form or the lowest terms of these numbers. So in other words, you're trying to get as low as it can go. So when I divided it just then by 6/6, what I found was 2/8 is an equivalent fraction, but it's not the simplified fraction of 12/48. So this is what I used to have to do. So I used to have to go, oh, okay, well, let's see here. If I get it down to 2/8, something can also go into both 2 and 8. 2 can. Because aren't 2 and 8 both even numbers? And so if I look at this now, I have to go, okay, well, I just have to simplify it. Again, 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. And then now I'm finished and I have a final answer of 1/4. Now, I want you to think about this process that I went through. So I started with 12/48. I divided it by 6/6. I got 2/8. But 2/8, I could still simplify. I wasn't done with just 2/8. So I could simplify it again by 2/2 to get 1/4. And then at 1/4, I was done. Now, here's where you want to be. These are my top math students. You want, basically, when you see a fraction and you have to simplify it, you want your skills to be where you see it, and then in your head, you already know what the GCF is between the numerator and denominator. Now, I want y'all to watch something. So I may not do all the work, but you guys can kind of follow what I'm going to do here. So if I were to write 12 and 48 out, and I factored both of them, I'd write all my and I've already done 12. Look, I did 12 up here on the top of the page. But I'd write out all my factors, and then I'd write out all my factors for 48, and I would try to go find the GCF. Well, what's really interesting is if you know your facts really well, you already know what the GCF is. I mean, the way I would kind of ask in class is, what is the biggest number that can go into both 12 and 48? It wasn't 6. It's actually 12. The GCF between these two would be 12. Now watch what happens. Let's say I write that fraction again, 12/48, and in this time, I pick the GCF, and I write 12 over 12 as my whole, and I go and I solve that. 12 divided by 12 is 1. 48 divided by 12 is 4, and I get the same answer as I got up here. Now, it's kind of like, well, where do you want to be in math? And I want you to kind of think about this for a second. There's 3 problems on the page. There's one where you can take your numerator and denominator out to the side and go factor and find that GCF and then come back up here and solve it, and boom, you're done. Then there's one kind of in the middle of the page where maybe you use some mental math and you picked a number, but that number didn't give you your final answer, so you had to simplify a couple of times before you got your answer. Or you can be that math student that just really knows their facts and just knows that GCF. Now, I don't know about you guys, but if I had to choose, I would want to be this kid. Because this kid, and think about it, this kid doesn't have as much work to do. Look at the difference. I mean, look at the amount of work here. So here's a problem up at the top. Here's a problem. And then here's a problem in the middle. And then here's a problem again. So this kid at the bottom really doesn't have that much work shown. You want to be this kid. I promise you, you want to be this kid. And again, you might be asking, well, why? Well, this kid is going to be very successful over the next few years. These kids aren't doing anything wrong. Now, I want to be very clear about this. Mr. McClure was this kid in the middle. I had to do this a lot when I was simplifying fractions. And it was okay. I still got right answers. I have several students in the years past that are this kid. There's nothing wrong with being this kid either. It's just, I would hope you would eventually kind of see the light at the end of the tunnel and go, hey, if there's a chance I don't have to do as much work, man, I like that way. And this is it. So this is kind of where you want to be. This is you looking at, less work. Sometimes I've said this in class. I mean, I hate using it, but it's true sometimes. This is kind of when you can be a little bit lazy in math, when you know your facts and you can take those shortcuts. And just knowing GCFs are very, very important. So, kind of looking at the page here, again, when we are simplifying and we're going over what simplifying is, you are using division to get those numerators and denominators down as low as they can go. So the next part, what we're going to talk about is the actual copy of notes that you have that the sub's going to pass out to you. And what you're going to do is you're going to cut and paste these notes out. And basically this is going to be kind of where, as you solve your problems, you're going to then go, okay, how do I know I'm officially done and I have that final answer? And so we're going to talk about that on the next page.